Hey guys, Paul from Net Audio here, and today we're going to change our format a little bit and try something different. This is not going to be a replacement for our normal product talks. This is going to be something that we're going to do for our more in-depth projects. Today we're going to talk about our '83 C10 Chevy truck. This customer came to us off a referral from another happy customer. He's got a C10 that he had it painted and a bunch of motor work, and he's working on different aspects of it. He really wanted to get an audio system in there that would complement the truck, but like a lot of our customers with classic trucks, they wanted to keep the factory radio, or they didn't want to cut the dash up primarily, but they liked that original look, but he wanted high-tech performance, and he also didn't want to cut holes everywhere. What we wanted to do, and what I've been wanting to bring on for a long time, was Morel. I've been in this industry over 20 years. I've heard the name forever. I've always wanted to bring on the line, but I already had a lot of lines that we needed. Morel came out with, probably 4 years ago, their Carbon Nano series. And what we absolutely love about these speakers, man, they're just so high tech. If you're from the industry and you know speakers, this is everything a speaker's not supposed to be. I mean, it is just, they started from scratch and came up with a whole different concept. So you have a 6.5 inch and a 4 inch woofer, but the mounting depth on the speakers is 0.7 of an inch. So less than 3/4 of an inch deep, which means we can mount speakers in places you normally cannot. What we did on this truck, we did custom kick panels where we can mount up a kick and we can have something that mounts in the factory locations without us having to cut a hole in the kick panel. I went through like 4 different iterations of kick panels and all these different variations because I wanted it to fit in place, but I didn't want to cut, I didn't want to modify, I didn't want to put any extra holes into the truck. But we made as a drop-in, bolt-in replacement kick panel as we could. The way that the kick panel is layered up, I got air behind it to help with the mid bass coming from these speakers. So on the driver's side, it screws in place using the hood release bracket. So it screws in place using that. And then we get the air space from behind it, and we sealed off the kick with some foam. So it sucks in like really nice and tight. The passenger side had its own complications because it has the fresh air return vent. We came up with a way to use that factory cover. I just re-wrapped it in matching vinyl so that it would use those 3 mounting points to screw it up and mount it up to the truck. The rest of the sound system is equally as high tech. What I like to do on classic cars, I like to use a processor if ever available. And the main reason is because it saves all the settings. You have an old truck, you have an old car, you're going to work on it. The battery's going to get disconnected a lot. It may sit in storage and die if you forgot to put it on the tender, you know, whatever. But this way you put your battery back in and everything still sounds the way it's supposed to. You don't have to go back in and change up a bunch of settings. So we used an Automotive processor, so it's an 8-channel DSP amplifier all built into one. And we used the Morel components in the front with the tweeters in the dash locations. We made custom acrylic brackets for that. And then we used our cab corners for the back corners of this truck to mount the Morel Maximo 6x9 coaxes. So the way we have this 8-channel set up is channels 1 and 2 are running the tweeters. Channels 3, 4, and 5, 6, they're bridged in order to put more power on the kicks. And then 7 and 8 are running the back corners. And then we have the output for the sub amp going to a Wavetech 500.1 that is running an Audison APS 10D, so their shallow 10. And we just made the enclosure as thin as we could and then put the subwoofer in the middle and made amp racks on the sides. For the amp racks, it's an old truck. I didn't want to see the equipment. So when you flip the seat forward, we made some magnetic grills that snap into place, and we used some vintage style grill mesh that you would see on old guitar amps. So something that still match the theme of the truck because it's black, but it gives us some good texture, it gives us some good contrast, but it's a mesh, so it's still going to allow the amplifiers to breathe. And then we just put some little red accent on it just to make it pop, and then we did that same red accent on the kick panels. Something that looks a little bit of custom without it being like super in your face. The complication of this is we had this whole system planned out, and then he was like, hey, I want to do phone calls. Well, originally we didn't want to do phone calls, we just wanted it for music, but he changed his mind on what he wanted to do. And we already had this all planned out. We're using the Bluetooth in for the Audison amp, using the Beacon from Audison, and then we were going to use their remote control for it so he could have control over the phone and everything from the dash. And we made a custom bracket in the ashtray to hold his subwoofer volume knob, the remote control for the processor, and then a kill switch on and off to open and close his cutoff exhaust system. We actually have two sound systems in this truck. We got a classic auto sound radio to replace the factory radio, and the whole purpose of that radio is phone calls. That radio is only running the Bluetooth input for the phone, and it's playing on 2 Hertz DG 3.5s in the dash location where the 4x10 would go. So we made a bracket for that. So when the phone rings, it mutes the music and it plays and rings through the center speakers, and he can turn the volume up and answer the phone, and he can talk through there. But we didn't want to use the classic auto sound for the main source. They look pretty, they look like they belong in the truck, but sound quality is always like 4th on the list. They're never that great sounding in our book. So everything that we did in that truck is all, completely reversible. We didn't modify anything other than, some screw holes to mount the subwoofer enclosure to the floor. Everything else was a bolt-in swap. It was all, interchangeable that way. At the end, sounded fantastic. He was grinning. We've got really great sound from in front of us, the 6x9s behind us. Honestly, we were dialing them back in the processor. They had a lot more potential, but we had it toned down in order to balance things out with the front speakers. At the end, I wish we had a little more power for the front speakers. I wish I had a little more power for the subwoofer, but all of that is stuff that we can change and grow with. He was smiling, he was happy. He primarily listened to, a bunch of rock. He picked it up, he was playing Pantera, that's what he's after. I think that the project came out really good, and we're going to be expanding our services and options for that C10 market. We've got products and enclosures and stuff that we've been using for years locally. We just haven't put them online. We've got a local builder that does a bunch of C10s that we're going to be working with. So you're going to be seeing more custom C10 projects here in the very near future, hopefully some pretty over-the-top ones. So definitely keep an eye on that. Like I said at the beginning, we just wanted to do a more concise, let's talk about the build, let's talk about the planning stages, what's our goals on everything. So if you like this format, definitely let us know in the comments how you like it, and hopefully we'll be doing more of these. Other than that, I'll catch you next time, guys.